You're listening to The Larry Kudlow Show.
Coming to you live from the Small Business Authority studios, I'm Larry Kudlow. We're going back to money and politics, and we welcome back Steve Moore, Wall Street Journal senior economics writer. He's the editorial author of Return to Prosperity, How America Can Regain Its Superpower Status. Whoosh. John McIntyre, editor and founder of RealClearPolitics.com, the nation's #1 political website, and James Pethokoukis, economic columnist at the American Enterprise Institute and CNBC contributor. Welcome, gentlemen. Jimmy P., I don't care whether Newt wins in South Carolina or not. He's not going to get the nomination. He's not going to get the nomination, and I don't even think he's a capitalist. He's still pecking away. He's still pecking away, as he did in the last debate, with this left-wing stuff. He's saying that, you know, the Bain Capital wasn't a venture. It wasn't a venture capitalist fund. It was a bad private equity fund. I'm sorry. It doesn't pass the smell test for capitalism.
Well, listen. Well, first I have to give an award to John McIntyre, who, when I and a lot of other people running up Newt Gingrich said, "Don't do it. This guy could still come back." He was right. Newt has. But I just don't think the comeback's going to come all the way, as you said, him actually winning the nomination. Listen, tonight's race is probably going to get called about 7:01 p.m. Eastern Time by the look of these latest polls, which has Newt Gingrich not only leading but expanding his lead. So I guess, you know, we'll have a big Newt Gingrich win tonight. But both, I think, the structure of the campaign, the organization, the money, and I think ultimately people are going to have deep concerns about Newt Gingrich being the Republican nominee going against Barack Obama.
All right, John McIntyre.
Romney will be the nominee.
John McIntyre, you did make the right call, and Newt has sprung back. But it is interesting to me, the in-trade poll, which you got to pay to play, they give South Carolina to Newt, but they also give the nomination to Mitt. And in-trade also says Obama versus Romney, it's too close to call, 50-50, John. What are you thinking here?
Well, look, I agree that Romney's still in the driver's seat as far as the nomination goes, because if there's any pattern in this race, it's as soon as anyone becomes the front runner or gets the focus on them, they go down. And so I think Newt's going to get the focus on him again, just like he got it in December pre-Iowa, and things may look differently after that. But, you know, I don't think you can just automatically count out Newt to be the nominee, and I would disagree with you a little bit about his attacks on Bain, and I'm not defending the ideological nature of his attacks, but I think what some people were missing here from a political strategy standpoint was, if someone was going to beat Romney, they had to go after Romney and take him down. Romney's biggest asset with Republican voters was the idea that he was the most electable. The Bain attacks are less about ideology with Newt. They are about tearing down Romney's electability with voters.
Yeah, that's like Obama. That's like Obama.
I think they've been well, hold on. I mean, look, Newt's in this to win, and I think they've been effective, and it's part of what's changed the race.
Well, I don't know if they've been effective. I mean, after all, in
he was out 10 days ago, Larry.
Yeah, but in South Carolina, he pulled back from the Bain thing, and a lot of people think it had to do with his attacks on the media or his attacks on the food stamp president.
The focus on
but I don't care.
That's why he started to go down.
I don't have to say that. You may be right politically, but what it tells me is Newt Gingrich is not a free market capitalist. I just had Senator John Kyle, who has not made an endorsement. And Kyle, however, rapped Gingrich by saying Republicans on the campaign trail that sound like left-wing Democrats are wrong, and we need to make a moral case for free market capitalism. And that's my beef against Gingrich. Political opportunism, Steve Moore, does not in any way, shape, or form, in my book, just speaking personally, political opportunism does not justify Gingrich's attacks on capitalism. And Steve, I don't know if you care. I don't know if you read my column. Mitt Romney at the last debate made a tremendous defense of free market capitalism and profits, and he made a tremendous attack on Obama's crony capitalism. And as far as I'm concerned, Romney has that message right.
Well, look, I mean, I find myself in agreement on this with Sarah Palin. I hope that Newt Gingrich does win in South Carolina. I want this thing to go on. I don't want your guy Romney to be coronated. I want him to have to fight for it. Now, look, I think that I find myself in the middle of where you are and where John are. I believe that what really turned things around for Newt Gingrich was the debate performance on Monday when he was spectacular. And you know, if he wins this, by the way, John, he should pay money to Juan Williams for asking them those questions, because I think Newt just knocked those out of the park. He got standing ovations. And you know what? I disagree with you, Larry. I think, although I totally agree with you on the issue of the obnoxiousness and of abhorrence of those attacks against Bain Capital, you know what? I mean, Newt Gingrich has a pretty pro-free market agenda. He's promoting, you know, private accounts for Social Security, 15% flat tax, free trade.
How do you know that's not political?
He's on the gold standard.
Look, all of that is political opportunism, too. You see, I don't know the real Newt. I don't know. Okay. How do you know that? Which is the political opportunism?
Larry, you can look at Newt Gingrich's 30-year record.
Well, his 30-year record includes cap and trade. His 30-year record includes health care mandates. I mean, see, these guys, there's no purity here.
The 30-year record is pretty bad. Latching on to whatever the hot idea of the moment is.
That's right.
Whether it's mandates, whether it's climate change, and right now, what's the hot idea being against private equity? So now he's latched onto that.
Yeah, I know, and the hot idea tomorrow might be socialism, and he'll latch onto that.
I'm telling you.
Think about that. Maybe Vladimir
opportunism to take down Romney.
Maybe Vladimir Putin takes over Russia and they declare 6.5% GDP, and Newt Gingrich says, "Hey, we should take a look at that. We should take a look at that because it's all very interesting." No, I'm not going to concede an inch, not a millimeter on this point. Not a single nanosecond am I going to concede this. I will not forgive him for his attacks on Bain Capital.
Well, let me agree with something that Steve said. I do think ultimately it was the debate performances that turned it around for him and skyrocketed him here in South Carolina. But I will say this: after Iowa, New Hampshire, Romney was cruising, and what with the Bain attacks, what Newt said he was willing in his mind to do what he needed to do to try to win, and they made a difference.
By the way, Steve Moore, Newt Gingrich at the Thursday debate never mentioned his 15% flat tax. Never mentioned it. They asked an economic question. He started about the Army Corps of Engineers and the port of Charleston's or whatever the hell it is. He never mentioned it, and he sure isn't mentioning gold. He whispers the gold to Jeff Bell and Lou Lerman, who are dear friends of mine, and I'm all for a gold-linked dollar, but he whispers it because he knows that's what they want to hear.
Well, look, I mean, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I'm not as down on Newt as you are because I'm not as persuaded that Mitt Romney is the guy. And I think the big...
I'm not persuaded either.
I mean, here's the big important story, and I'd love your guys' reaction to this. I think the big problem is that Mitt Romney cannot seal the deal with voters. I mean, the voters are simply not sold on this guy as much as you are, Larry.
No. Listen,
the American people that he is the true free market conservative. Think he is.
Yes, he is as consistent. Where I criticize Romney is he doesn't have a flat tax reform plan. He doesn't have a modified flat tax reform plan. And therefore, he can't sweep away all the cronyism, deductions, and exemptions and carve-outs that would go along with a flat tax. So that's my criticism.
But he's not a supply-sider, Larry.
Well, I don't know who the supply-sider is. Steve Moore, but Steve Moore is not running for president.
Mitt Romney's not a supply-sider.
Well, neither is Newt.
Well, I'm not saying he is.
So I got to try to have tough.
Look, let me
I got to have tough love on tax reform.
I don't know that any of these guys are going to end up being the nominee.
Well, Paul Ryan should have run for president. Paul Ryan should have run for president.
But people are going to advance. Look, part of the dynamic here is this is a whack-a-mole game. Whenever someone comes up, the Republican voters don't like any of them.
Right.
It is whack-a-mole. I agree with that.
Whack-a-mole.
All right,
but you know, it goes beyond just. I think Mitt Romney has a problem of just connecting with voters. I don't quite understand it. I like Mitt Romney, but you know, he comes across as being a kind of robotic, and it's just amazing to me. The guy who was the huge front runner in terms of the Republican establishment, the voters are saying not so fast.
Well, I agree. Look, Mitt Romney needs a strong tax reform plan. Jimmy P., on the other hand, I know Romney has bungled this tax return thing. You can't just get it done. I don't know why he doesn't release last 3 years like today. But Jimmy P., the attack on tax returns is another attack from the left. It's an attack saying, oh, you're a successful rich guy, and therefore you must have done something wrong. You must have lied, cheated, stolen, and therefore we want to see your tax returns. That's what this is. It's another left-wing attack, Jimmy P.
Well, that's why it was so good to hear Romney finally to embrace it and say, hey, I'm not going to apologize for being successful.
Right.
Listen, this is not a case where his father was a billionaire, cut Mitt Romney a check, and he's been living off the trust fund for the past 45 years.
Right.
He built a company. He saved businesses. He created wealth on his own. And I think he needs to start talking about that. That's a guy who has worked hard and grinded away and built a fortune the way we want people to do.
Thank you.
Hard work and some smarts.
Thank you. And John McIntyre, I'm waiting for Romney to be like Nelson Rockefeller, the former New York State governor for life. Nelson used to say, I am so rich that I won't steal or cheat, and I can't be bought. That's all. And I think that's the benefits of a rich person running for president. The guy's as honest as the day is clear.
Romney should be more comfortable talking about that and should speak like that. But I wouldn't poo-poo this tax issue either. He's got a problem with this tax issue.
No.
I mean, he's committing political malpractice with how he's handled this.
No, I agree.
And I think he's handled it this way because I think he was wanted to sort of pull an Obama in the sense that with what Obama said with public financing. He told Hillary Clinton, "Yeah, I'll take public financing." Once he became the nominee, he didn't do it. I don't think he ever was going to release his tax returns. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. He should just release them, get him out there, and move on.
He's already released his financial returns. We already know his assets, liabilities, and net worth.
He's really hurting himself with this. Why doesn't he just release them?
Well, I don't know. It's a political mistake. I agree with you. It's a complete political
another
mistake.
political mistake these guys are making. I watched both the debates this week. Why aren't they punching Obama harder? I just don't understand why they don't take every occasion to go after Obama's miserable economic record.
Well, wait a minute.
It's almost like they've forgotten about
Wait a
Obama.
minute. What about this?
And Obamacare, for that matter.
I'm going to read you from Thursday night's debate, which I thought Romney did very well. Quote, you've got to stop the spread of crony capitalism. Obama gives GM to the UAW.
Right.
He takes $500 million and sticks it into Solyndra. He stacks the labor stooges on the NLRB so they can say no to Boeing and take care of their friends in the labor movement. He has to bow to the most extreme members of the environmental movement. He turns down the Keystone Pipeline, which would bring energy and jobs to America. And then he goes on to say, my view is capitalism works, free enterprise works, and oh, by the way, there's nothing wrong with profits. Profits from pension funds and charities. Profits create jobs. I mean, what do you want? That's the clearest explication.
I agree with you. I love that. I wish you would say that all the time. I wish the Republicans would remember who the enemy is here.
Well, read my column. John McIntyre, thank you for posting my column. Read my column because I give Mitt credit, and I do not give Newt credit on this point, and I won't give him credit until he quits these left-wing attacks. We're going to take a quick commercial break. John McIntyre, James Pethokoukis, and Steve Moore. I'm a worked-up Larry Kudlow. We'll be right back.